What is going on, everyone? What is going on? It's been a minute, but hot takes. We're back. I'm Lawrence Henderson, where we are always seeking to be humble, open, and transparent. And I brought with me some amazing coaches that are going to talk to you all about the power of the reset. But before we get rolling with that, I want them to introduce themselves, let you all know where they are in the world, and then we'll get going with some of these juicy reset and pause questions. So first, Coach Sophie, where are you in the world? Tell people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having us. I am Sophie. I am currently in Lisbon, Portugal. As you can hear, I have a little accent. I'm Dutch originally, but in the meantime have lived in Ireland, in Dublin. The last 5 years were in San Francisco, and now back to the European continent in Lisbon.
Thank you so much for being here, Sophie. And you all may remember Jomar, Coach Jomar, from all the way in 2020. I can't believe it's been over a year since we first connected, Jomar. And you were just dropping platinum nuggets then. And I know you got some more to drop on us today. So, Coach Jomar, thank you so much for being here. Where are you in the world these days?
I am currently in Scottsdale, Arizona. Originally from Puerto Rico, and have, like Sophie, just kind of bounced around the world in the United States and China, and then settling for the past 13 years in Arizona.
Well, thank you both so much for being here on the show today. And as we think about just this topic of the power of the pause and reset, I would like you both just to spend a couple of minutes. I always want to know why this, why now, and why you? Why is this a mission for you? So I stacked some questions on you all.
A little bit of stacking questions there. Jomar, you want to go first?
Sure. Sophie and I first met deciding that we wanted to do in-person retreats, which now seems kind of funny. And we're just to pause and take a moment and take a deep breath, and just bringing in people that are stressed from all over the world, putting them in a completely different environment, away from their routines and everything else, to really focus on how they react and those habits and how they're serving them or not. 2020 happened, and we've decided that we need to take that message sooner than later, since most of us were not traveling at the time, and bringing that idea of intentionality and resetting and taking the time to just pause as many times as we need to, because it has been quite an interesting year and a half.
And to just add on that, I think how I got here, or why now, and why me. And my coaching journey has been, or started a couple years ago already, although I wouldn't describe it as my coaching journey back then. I started with a yoga teacher training course, and that one was really more focused on the yoga philosophy and truly getting in touch with your authentic self versus just being a yoga teacher. And that was really for me the pathway into like that self-exploration and like, what is it? What do I truly want? Where do I get my energy from? And what drives my passion? And then over the years, I developed that more and more, and that ultimately resulted in me joining the coaching certification, me meeting Jomar, and then our ideas just kind of converged into this one plan of, like Jomar said, the reset or the in-person retreats. But what was super fascinating to me, because I came from a corporate world, which I only said goodbye to in July this year, so only a few months ago, But what I found so fascinating, especially at the beginning of COVID, so the start of lockdown, those first couple of weeks, everything was about like finding the silver linings, and pretty much everyone said, oh, it's so nice to actually not have to travel and to spend some time with my family and to not have to do all these things. Granted, now a year and a half later, everyone is over that. But like in the beginning where people were kind of forced to stop, that brought for so many a little bit of clarity, or like, oh my God, I really needed that break. So when Jomar and I started working together and thinking of the fantastic things that the reset can do, I think it's, let's not wait till the next pandemic to get to a point of pausing and resetting. Let's find times where you can actually invest in yourself, intentionally stop, pause, reconsider what you want, and then moving forward without having the whole world to shut down to get to that point.
No, and thank you both so much for setting the stage for this, because I'm a serial doer. I come from this place. I have a mantra: actions over ideas, and so I find myself actually causing anxiety if I perceive action not to be taking place. And I found myself over this last year taking moments to pause, to ask the question, is this the right work right now for me? And it was in that pause, in those moments of permission, that I was able to then lock in on just what needed to be done now, what was important in that moment. And there's something you both say, there's an importance in an intentionality. And Sophie, you were about to go there, the intentionality of pausing. What's that all about?
I think we're so used from, especially in the Western world, and from being young, going to school, doing your homework, getting in your extracurricular activities, going to high school, picking your focus, going to either college or already picking up what job and career you want. You just, from the age of like 7 or 8, you step onto this train and you just, whether it's a train, a hamster wheel, autopilot, give it a name, and you just go on this track. And what I think a lot of people, myself included, are not taught to do is to actually take a moment and think about, is this what I truly want? Or am I just doing this because of expectations or all those inner voices that we have in our heads, or society, or familiar, like the obligations that a family puts on you? And we are not trained to actually stop, pause, and really reconsider, is this the train I want to be on? Or, do I actually want to do something else? What is bringing me joy? What do I want in this life? What do I have to offer?
Jomar, go ahead and add something there, because I know I see your wheels turning like, ooh, jump in there.
Oh, because it's so true. I mean, think about nowadays how if we have families and kids, our kids are scheduled from 6 or 7 in the morning to school, and then after school programs nonstop. By the time our kids graduate and then they go back to college and then go straight, there is not a single moment that has not been usually set aside just to kind of take that break, that pause, that moment to reflect. Even if, wow, this is really great. So it doesn't mean that reflect and then go toss everything out the window, but really bring the attention to the moments of gratitude of how awesome that I get to do this or that. But we're rushing through every aspect of our life. So we're not even setting the intention of even understanding, like, wow, this is really great. Or maybe this is bringing a little bit of conflict, and where are we right now? Not until we find ourselves in a different stage or a different point where things are just going really wrong or really right, or whichever it is, that then people might feel like, oh, now I need to reconsider. So it's that moment of like, okay, we can do this more often than we what we've given ourselves permission to do it.
Yeah, Jamar, and I want you to expand on there because I know you were tap dancing around it because you were waiting on me to toss it up to you. But there's something about at our core there being these moments that we need to dig into. What does it mean to self-discover some things, to do some self-acceptance that leads to some self-compassion? So in your work, Jamar, like how is those types of things and creating awareness like that, how's that showing up?
Oh, everywhere. Because if the chatter is constantly there, there's very little point for you to kind of really listen. And a lot of what we do is just simply facilitating the simplest of questions. What is it that you really want? It stops everyone. Like, oh, that is a question that just literally it makes everyone pause. But what do you really want? What do you stand for? How do you define yourself if you were going to define yourself? These are very questions that on the outside seem very simple, but we not necessarily have taken the time as we've moved from one stage of our lives. And those things change over time. It might change, when you were single, when you then all of a sudden got married, when you had children, when you're retiring. And as we move through those, then, what do you really want? Have we stopped and paused? What is it? What's important to you right now? And how do you then move intentionally to that space?
Yeah, Sophie, I want you as we process what do we really want, how important is it for people to actually explore their ideas and expectations, because those look different now, don't they?
Yes, 100%. And like Jomar said, they can change. But I think what is so important there is what we really want. It's really important to get clarity around that. But then also why? Why do we want that? And explore those reasons that facilitate that. Because as Jomar mentioned, like all of that inner chatter, all of those voices that we have in our head, that we are either very trained to just ignore altogether or listen to each and everything that it says, like you can't do this, or you're stupid for trying this, or like who do you think you are? Understanding your why can actually give you enough power to then actually put that line in the sand and saying like, this is why I'm doing that, and that's why it is not a crazy idea to actually follow my passion or quit my job or go on a vacation all by myself because I need some me time. Like understanding the why behind the what will cement that in a lot more power so that you stand firmly with it.
And then I'm interrupting there.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Because on top of that is the who, is who we are, because that's where we start. We start with the who. What are your core values? And defining that, we ran this past series, the Explore series, and we have this group of amazing individuals, all amazingly talented. Once they figured out what they valued, then they realized that's why I do it this way. And they let go of so many preconceived ideas of notions of what they thought they needed to do. I'm like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. But it required that pause. They took 90 minutes once a week to kind of sit down and be guided through what are your values, and then that makes sense on why you're doing what you're doing. And then we become to like, yes, I'm embracing that. I love it. That's why I do it.
I knew you was gonna do that. I love that so much, because here's the thing: we've been taught, whether it's Western and all our lives, is get to the how. People want to know how. How do I? And you remove that ability to just sit and ideate, and because we haven't given ourselves permissions as adults to just be creative in what does this mean to me? Why am I showing up every day for this type of work? And I never forget, I have a coach who leaned into financial sector job her whole entire life. Why? Because her family told her you would always have a job. And so, but miserable. And then ended up in a coaching program and is like, I found it. I found it. And so for us, when y'all think about the clients that you serve and the retreats that you do, who shows up for your work?
Oh, it runs the gamut. You know, but at first I thought, you know, people in transition. The reality is that we're always in transition. We're all in transition. So we have some that have moved on into different jobs and things that they do, some that just fell in love again with the job that they do, and some that went to simply, you know, have go for other jobs within the same group, or it's so many different sides of it, or even introspection on how do I just live regularly and incorporate this in my regular life, not only at work, because work is just a part of it, but again, it comes in your personal life. What am I doing this for? If this is really what I want, this is what I really I'm aiming for in my personal life as well. So it runs the gamut.
And I do think, Lauren, she said something interesting there, because I see that as well, where I think a lot of people sign up to our series that are actually quite happy with where they are, having a life, and they're just, you know, living their lives. But there's that little nagging voice that something might be missing, or they don't feel that fully fulfilled yet. And I think the example that you gave with the woman who works in financial services, sometimes it is that push of getting to know your who, your why, your what, that actually makes you completely shift your careers and go into a different direction altogether. But it might also be if she all of a sudden, or all of a sudden, but if we guided her through that exploration and her discovering that, you know, her core value is actual financial stability so she can provide for her family, she might view that job with a completely different set of eyes and actually show up the next day. It's like, okay, I'm not enjoying every task that I have to do for this job, but what I do enjoy is that paycheck at the end of the month that provides me to send my kids to school, to cook fantastic meals, and to live my life the way I want to live it together with my family. So it's just also for people who can just use that little shift in perception of understanding themselves better to actually get the joy out of the daily activities of daily life.
Oh my gosh, I love that, because I'm always finding it. I know you all are doing it too with your clients. It's like, find the little wins, find the little W's in your day. And just that reframe, just that quick reframe, Coach Sophie, that you just did there people don't know it's there. Like and I think because we're viewing social media is a great medium for connection, but it also can show you the pendulums of extremes where you swing so far to one way that it's hard to find your way back. And one of the things that, and I found this little meme that had WIN as an acronym, and it really just spelled what's important now. Is it your family? Is it you embracing yourself for the first time and really seeing yourself in the mirror? And there's something, Jomar, that you have expressed before in embracing yourself and the world around you. Why is that an important process for us all to go to work through?
And that speaks to our strengths. We are very much taught, and we do that all the time. We run this little exercise where we just say, oh, you look wonderful, you did this thing wonderfully, and then we minimize ourselves. Oh, that was nothing. And we don't really just embrace our full potential, and then we don't play to that. We just start minimizing ourselves, minimizing our entire abilities around the world, versus really just showing up, owning them every single step of the way. And that is just huge to know that, yeah, this is, you talk about social media. It's a great medium, but we're also seeing just a very polished version. When we meet in groups, we had one point that someone in the group said, "Oh my God, you too?" Because they're seeing like, I thought I was the only one in those vulnerable moments or anything else. And it's just like, yeah, these are the thoughts that we all have. And it's important to just embrace every aspect of that.
Sophie, you got to jump in there. What does that mean to you?
I think with embracing comes a lot of acceptance, because if you don't embrace your full self and also the world around you, you don't accept what is happening. And what that means is that you're just fighting on a daily basis. You're fighting either against yourself or around the people around you or whatever is happening. Like if you had a plan for that day to go to the store to buy a beautiful dress, whatever it is, and you go to the store and it's closed, where your entire day is ruined because of this little thing, versus showing up there and then saying, well, now I'm gonna grab a coffee and a little cake with chocolate, and I'm just gonna treat myself and sit and just enjoy this and accept that as the world as it is right now. I loved your WIN acronym of what's important right now. Like right now, what is it that you can embrace and accept for what it is, and then reframe into something positive for yourself.
Like as you both were just describing that, like I got this picture of, in particular when you said, Jomar, someone giving you a compliment, and again in our heads, that's the old version of humility, right? It's, oh, that's just a little something I do. Like, no, here's the thing. Try thank you. Try just saying thank you, right? Like that's all it was. They, like, somebody acknowledged they see something, you did something well, just say thank you. Like, where did that come from that all of a sudden I love words of affirmation. A well-timed and pointed compliment, the gas of that gives me about 2 months. I'll run through walls for you off of a good compliment. And so I crave it. And so when I get it, I'm like, ooh, okay, thank you. And like, I'm just like a little kid in a candy store. But and I really believe that little kid is inside all of us, that somebody just to acknowledge us. And when your vision and what you created, the reset for, Jomar, you share with me our vision of creating a community of like-minded individuals who consciously choose to live in joy. Like, I want both of you just to speak on that as a collective vision, and when you hear it read back to you, what's going on with you?
Joy doesn't mean happy every minute at all. That is the number one distinction. Joy and happiness is a completely different thing. Happiness is things, those are sparks in the moment. Joy is understanding that there is joy in tears and crying when your newborn is brought to you. There's all kinds of emotions there, but there is also joy. And what we're trying to bring across is the idea that life is going to continue. It's hard. It has its ups, it has its downs, it has a full gamut. But even in those hard times, as we're able to really tap into the different aspects of joy, we were discussing that today, the different attributes, gratefulness, gratitude, community, knowing that there's a whole slew of everything out there for you. And understanding that bit of it, just and embracing and just really sitting with that, is even in those hard moments. I don't know, Sophie, can you elaborate more?
Yeah, for me, and Lawrence, when you were reading it out again, two things really stood out to me. One is the consciously choosing. So especially the consciously choosing. Because as Jomar said, it's not, life is hard. Like, stuff is gonna happen. You have your downs. It's not always ups, and we're not in the clouds pretending that just be optimistic and happy and your life will be a joy. Like, realistically, that's just not gonna happen. Like, things are gonna bring you down. But there is an option there for everyone, and that I truly believe in, where you can consciously choose how you're gonna react to that situation that is hard. Because yes, it is hard, and it is 100% okay to just curl up and cry and put a blanket on you and pretend that the world is not happening. But is that sustainable for the long term? Maybe, but then you really withdraw from the world, and that's not where joy is gonna find you. If you consciously choose to actually accept the hard part of it, accept the negative emotions that come with it, and then you can react to what your next step is gonna be. So I think that was one thing that really I wanted to make a point, like helping people to consciously choose to react versus just respond. And then Jomar also touched upon it, community, like how incredibly important it is to have people around you where you can share your stories with, whether they are positive or negative or just like the run-of-the-mill daily activities, but that you have people to come home to, and whether that home is virtual, at the cafe around the corner, or actual your genuine home, that's up to you, and that's however you wanna give shape to that. But having the people around you, and I think COVID and the lockdown again just underscored how important that is, because that social isolation of just being locked out in your house has hit people hard, I think.
And
Go ahead.
Lawrence, to add to that, you mentioned it when you said, the feel that you get when someone gives you a compliment. This is a power that we all have. And if we are living in joy, we're all fueling each other up on a continuous basis. We'll always have the ability to do that for one another. So creating a community of joy means that it is shareable, and it is something that is highly contagious. And if we're going to pass around something, let's pass joy around. That's the one item that we can go ahead and say, yes, let that be contagious, and let it just pass it all around as we can.
Yeah, and I'm glad Jomar, you threw it out there. Joy isn't, and Sophie, you did it too. Joy just isn't like, hey, and it's like this false platitude that you're trying to, conjure up something, but it's like, no, we have the ability to hold space and be joy, and there's always the other side. There's that reframe, and us coaches, we know about energy, right? And there are the goods and the bads to all of it, but hey, we want to make sure we have access to the things that fuel us, and again, process these things, because there are some amazing words that you all have, because I'm a word guy, and just your thoughts around expanding awareness, thoughts around exploring ideas and expectations, embracing yourself, like I love coaches. Golly, I just love coaches, because you just give so much access to people helping themselves realize what's right for me. It may not be right for you, but if I go in trying and saying I'm going to expand my awareness, why am I harmed by this space? Why is it hitting me this way versus pointing the finger at others and making them responsible for how I feel in those spaces like that? So I want people to understand. I don't want to hoard y'all. I want them to know where you are, and you all have a virtual series coming, like in the next week and some change. So talk about how they could find you, the virtual series, and all of that.
Yes, our next virtual series starts literally next week. Well, next week plus 1 day, so September 8th. And we actually have 2 time zones, or 2 time slots, so we can accommodate different time zones. And so we have one at 9 a.m. Pacific time and 5:30 Pacific time. And this is, we're both super excited. This is right now our favorite series. It's the Expand series. And that is really about defining your core values, so who you are, and then defining those strengths. So what do you bring to the table? What are all those thoughts that we have in our heads that are serving us, and which ones are no longer serving us? And then how can we stand with all of that with pride and actually create an actionable and sustainable plan? So all of that is done in 4 sessions of 90 minutes in 4 consecutive weeks. Then we give you a week break so you can reflect and enumerate and think about that plan. And then we get back together for one mastermind of an hour, 60 minutes to actually discuss how we can put that plan into action.
And you missed one my favorite part of it, aside from the whole thing, is the joy box. Everyone gets a joy box. It is Sophie and I spent so much time putting together, and it's an actual box that you get. It has all your materials that you need in there, plus a couple of everything from exercises that you will want, and a couple of our other favorites that will just enhance the learning that is going to continue happening for those 5 or 6 weeks, because it's for one session every week for 4 weeks and a break, and then the wrap up, which is where we kind of come together and share and enjoy our wins from what we've really just been able to learn and grow.
And where you can find us, Lawrence will just take over. You can find us on theonereset.com, and that will have all of the details also around the expense series and a link to actually register.
I love it. Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so thank y'all so much for sharing your time, sharing just access to you amazing coaches. And y'all avail yourselves. They said they will open up, extend early bird to the hot takes listeners. So take advantage of it. Tell them, and again, when they ask how you found us, tell them about the podcast and that you heard it here. You are in amazing hands. And I am so, so grateful that you all chose the Hot Takes podcast to share your voices. And I'll allow you any last comments or things you want to say to anybody, your audiences out there, your newfound friends.
Well, they can follow us on social media, which is where we are, still The One Reset on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And we continue sharing nuggets of wisdoms, how-tos, and just everything in between that bring us joy.
Love it. Love it. Sophie, anything?
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. This was fantastic. It's such a joy to actually do this and get to talk about all these things that how we view the world and then what we have to offer. And for anyone who wants to register but still has some questions, just 100% feel free to reach out either to our website or our social media direct message. Find us one way or another, and we'd be happy to just talk things through.
All right. Well, thank y'all so much. Y'all, this was another amazing Hot Takes episode. Again, you saw it. They were humble, they were open, they were transparent about why they started, why they continue to do this work, and why they will continue to hold space for you as you grow and develop wherever you're at in the world. And so thank y'all so much. Until next time, folks, be well, be kind, and take some action. Be a part of this the Expand virtual offering, and be well.